We're going to do 3 rounds of 4 candidates. Each round, 2 of them, by your vote, will go through to the next round. Make sense? Everyone gets 90 seconds to speak. We're going to get into some hard questions. Get ready, Pete Fry. I'm wearing your pin. Then we're going to have 2 rounds of 3 candidates. That will result in 2 finalists, 90 seconds, and then the winner is the winner. The winner is the winner? Doesn't mean you get on city council or be the mayor. But you win today. Maybe you can get a gong bath. Maybe that's what you win. And okay. So let's begin. Shall we? I need 4. Are we ready? That's good. Snapping. I like that. Paola's got it. I would like to welcome back to the stage RJ Aquino, representing One City. Andrea Reimer from Vision Vancouver. Gail Gavin from Cope. And Mike Hansen from an independent. Take it away, killer. Oh, let's wait for Gail. We're waiting.
So election donations are a crucial piece of getting money for parties, but also for the donors. They get a seat at the table and they get influence. And the recent so-called influence peddling scandal shows it's a big issue right now. In the city of in the province of British Columbia, anytime with my phone right now, I could find out what any MLA or any party had been given in the last year and years back to, I think, 2006. The city of Vancouver keeps that information locked up until after every election. So I know some parties have decided to make their election donations known, but there's no law about that, and frankly, you don't have to. So my question to you, is this a problem? And if it is, what would you do about it?
Yeah, there's no question it's a problem. I wrote my, what you didn't mention, John, is that the province controls the laws by which cities create both electoral rules, so whether or not we can vote. Somebody mentioned STV. Right now we can't use that voting system because it's not legal under the provincial law. They also control campaign finance laws and campaign disclosure laws. So I know Vision has agreed to release donors before the election. I think the Green Party already has. I don't know Cope's position, but I believe the NPA has as well. And I'm sure the rest of you can speak to yours. I wrote my first submission on this to the provincial government in 2003. I wrote another one in 2004. Vision Vancouver passed a motion in 2007, put a motion forward that the NPA voted down as a majority at the time on council. We did another one in 2009. Alan Woodsworth, who's not here anymore, led on that. 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. And finally got the province to agree to spending limits and better disclosure laws. And they just launched the second phase of electoral reform, in which, if we get enough people in to submit to that provincial initiative, they have made motions that suggest that they will bring in, finally, the ability for Vancouver to ban corporate and union donations, as well as limit individual contributions, which is something that is desperately needed in our electoral system. Good.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Is that better? Is that okay? Oh, what a concept. The question here is, who supports and puts the money forward, the big bucks, so that time after time after time, for the history of our city, a developer's party is doing what the developers want. It's never been any different. And I say, vote for me, put community into, not back into City Hall. Ban corporate donations, ban union donations. It's an interesting concept, and I'll tell you what I think of it personally. It's this. Workers who would, if they weren't so apathetic and felt so defeated by developers, parties running the city, don't have a lot of money to dig into their pockets. But throughout history, they have band together in unions, and the House of Labour is a good institution. We may not like who is riding in the bus and who is driving the bus at any time, but believe me, folks, it is an institution that protects the ordinary person. So if you're a rich person and you can't donate through your corporation, you can still dig into your pockets. So there should be provincial government funding based on how much support you get from the electorate if you're going to ban union and corporate donations. Thank you.
Mike for mayor, independent candidate running for the voters. I brought a prop with me today. A week before the election, I'm cutting my hair off. And I'm giving it to kids with cancer. I did it in 2008 when I ran for mayor. I call it my hair farm. I grow it for the kids. But anyways, donations from the rich to fund campaigns to get what they want. One of the best ideas I have is all the campaign donations get pooled together into one pot and then get distributed evenly between all the candidates. That way every candidate has the same amount of money to spend. No one has any more, no one has any less. And if you can't spend it all, Elections Canada will take it and spend it for you. Here's the thing. Accountability is what we need. We don't have accountability when the provincial government runs our election service. That's crazy. They can't even run a provincial election, let alone a municipal election. Run it right anyways. They can ruin one and run it all crazy and, out of control and have all sorts of problems with the count of the voters. But like my platform talks about, the voters are the councillors. Now the voters are the ones who make the say. I'm just going to sign yes or no on the plebiscite. Mike for mayor. Mike with the hair for mayor.
Heavy topic. First question that comes to mind is really, who paid for the pizza? So, I didn't get a slice. Real campaign finance reform means limiting donations, limiting spending, and it's really a lot of talking to a lot of people here in this city who pay close attention to how much money is being spent in a municipal election is really turning people off. There was a question earlier about getting people more involved in the election, and a lot of people say, well, what's the point? What's my one vote going to do? And there's, just the perception of a huge influence of the amount of money coming in. We need campaign finance reform. There needs to be limits on election spending, election donations, and not just during election periods, but in between. All that money needs to be disclosed as well. I have a friend from Toronto who is lording over me the voter turnout numbers from Toronto, and it's kind of pissing me off because I want the city to win. We need to have over 60% turnout, and one way to increase that is to empower people and make them feel like they have a bigger voice in city council. Thank you.
So what you're really saying, RJ, is that you'll match my drink for everyone who brings a new apathetic voter.
Plus shooters.
Plus shooters. And then we're going to do it at Melissa's house. And we're going to get at least 10 more voters. It's going to be awesome. Okay, here we go. RJ. Okay. Very good. Andrea. Gail. And Mike with the hair for mayor. I'm pleased to say that RJ and Andrea are through. Thank you very much. Very wonderful, thoughtful answers. Appreciate it, Mike. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, guys. It is. You can put this back on if you want. It's the idea that it takes longer to average an audio average, because if somebody whistles, it can go straight to the top versus longer sampling of. So put it back down there, because then they'll complain, saying, that's not right. Okay, here we go. We're getting down to it. Pete Fry, get on here. Melissa DiGenova. One of the two, the other Rob McDowell. Anthony Guitar, come on, join us on stage. Oh, the Daily Double! Has anybody noticed in the audience that there's no double anything, though? There's no daily anything and there's no double anything. It's just a sound we know, right? Double the pizza. Okay. We had someone over here who's going to tell us who he is, and his question sounded clever. Anyway.
Pressure's on. Hi, my name is Boris Mann. For those of you who do know what the tech sector is, I'd love to have a related question, which is, how do you feel about Wi-Fi in public spaces? And as a bonus round, since this is a daily double, how do you feel about the role of technology in improving city operations?
I guess I'm first, right? You did call me first.
Go, Pete.
All right, can you hear me? All right, so I also work in tech. I'm a self-employed graphic designer, web developer, and I appreciate your question. I also just want to point out that 80% of the jobs in this city are actually small business, so that small business is less than 10 employees. So we definitely need to focus on empowering small businesses. I think there's a tremendous role for new tech to play in, especially stuff like smart infrastructure for traffic control, general city operations, just smoothing and facilitating more efficiency. And I do worry that too much focus in big tech, big cap tech companies puts us at an unfair disadvantage when the markets change. So we've seen this before with animation studios. They'll get started here, they'll start the job, and then they'll farm out the jobs to a cheaper market. Similarly, when we have a lot of businesses coming here, because right now there's an issue with dollar parity and difficulty in getting to the United States. So we need to be wary of that and have a diversified portfolio, if you will, a diversified portfolio of jobs and opportunities for all British Columbians. And I hope I answered everything about the tech, because I think I missed some little aspect of. Well, Wi-Fi, yeah, no, totally. I think that's a fantastic idea to have a good network of Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi throughout the city. I think that would do a great benefit to us all, and on the buses and bus stops.
Thank you, Pete. What a gentleman. Well, the first part of that question is, I'm very proud to say that our party, the NPA, and our mayoralty candidate, Kirk LaPointe, that was his first announcement, that Wi-Fi would be free throughout our city. And I think that that's so important, not only just for us as citizens and residents here, but also for tourists who come to Vancouver. And we want to invite the world here, just as we did in 2010 with the Olympics. Now, to answer the second part of your question, I think that it's really important that we stop talking about what we're doing with tech and start actually doing it. Let's grow our economy. Let's actually make sure the jobs are here, but we need the infrastructure too. And I think that that's when we start looking at housing affordability. We look at certain sectors who are considering Vancouver as home, and they're looking at what that's going to look like for their employees. And I have to tell you, as somebody who is one of the youngest candidates running with my slate, all of my friends have moved outside of the city of Vancouver, and I want to give them a reason to move back. I want to make sure that we have everything to invite the tech sector here. We need affordable housing for people. We need strong jobs. We need high-paying jobs, but we also need to make sure that we're taking care care of our city. And in using that, I think that there's certain ways that we can use that. The MPA has already said that we would put out a mentorship program for youth where we match the time and talent of adults with the needs and wants of youth. And I think that using a great matching system and using some of those technology systems is the way that we will be able to accomplish that. Thank you.
My name is Rob Mcdowell, in case you forgot that. But, you know, I was honored to serve Canada as a foreign service diplomat. I was senior trade commissioner in China. I was up in Beijing for a couple of years, down in Guangzhou for a couple of years. And so I understand the role that government can play in trade promotion and working with different sectors in promoting the different sectors as a policy piece. I also understand the problems that can exist with that, choosing favorites, choosing the wrong, interfering with the market, putting policies forward that might interfere with what should naturally happen. So I'm all for using the Vancouver Economic Commission to promote the sector. I think it's important. I think it's important for the sector to also play a role in how that policy is rolled out. Melissa's already talked about Wi-Fi. In terms of technology, my big favorite in Vancouver in terms of technology is Car2Go, which I know is not quite in the sector, but Car2Go I'm a huge fan of, and I think that whole car sharing technology, we could be a global capital of car sharing. I mean, that's something that we could certainly champion if we had the right policy in place. So we've talked about public Wi-Fi. I've talked about the concerns about the policies, but I certainly understand that there is a need to have those policies in place to promote the industry. Thank you.
Anthony Guitar, independent for City Council. I agree with the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi should be citywide and free for everyone. Myself, I'm not 100% technology perfect, but I'm learning as I go, and technology is taking over and doing very well. I don't know where else I can touch on that, because like I say, I'm not a tech pro.
Thanks, guys. You're being. I want to whisper. I don't want anybody to hear me. But when the sign's up, just go ahead and bash it. Okay. Just go. Let's just don't none of this so close. Okay? But don't tell anybody I said anything. Okay. Okay, here we go. First up, Rob. Melissa. The dance. Pete. Oh, graphic designers. Anthony. Okay, we have Rob and Pete through. Melissa, thank you very much. Anthony, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, guys, stay sharp. And our last in this round, right? Last four in this round, and then we get her done. Jesse Joel, Nicholas Chernin, Sid Chowtan, and Keith Higgins. Let's do it.
Oh, wow. Oh, come on. You got the other side, too, right? It says Vancouver first on the other side.
We are so inundated with merchandise up at here this day, with pins and signs, everything.
We didn't get the union donation, sorry.
No. Well, my question for y'all is, in September 2013, you might remember that Mayor Gregor Robertson and Jim Chu, who's the police chief, they declared a mental health crisis in Vancouver. And I'm wondering from each of you, what is the single most important thing that the city can do to address mental illness among its citizens?
Hi, everyone. Jesse Joel, Vancouver First. This is an issue near and dear to me because I have friends who suffer from mental illness. And I actually help raise money for mental illness among youth every year through our Rotary Club. This is an issue that's been going on for decades and swept under the carpet. Many of the people down on the downtown east side are drug addicted and are self-medicating. They're the mentally ill who have been pushed out onto the streets because of affordable housing being an issue, as well as there's just nowhere safe for them to be. The services aren't there. Instead of giving lip service, the first thing we should be doing is actually working with our partners at the provincial and federal level and actually getting some funding directly for first-level responders and caregivers. And these are the counselors, these are the people who do the intervention. And you know what? There are great services out there, but they're woefully, woefully underfunded. And you can't save everybody if somebody's giving you a quarter of the budget you need. People are falling through the cracks, and under this government, civic government, we've seen high-rise Robertson drop, it's true. Concrete jungles on our community seem to be a priority over the kids and the mentally ill who are falling through the cracks and overdosing down on the downtown east side. And people, these aren't strangers. These are our neighbors. These are our friends' children. These are our friends. And they are falling through the cracks. So the first thing is admit that there's an issue and that the current city council is the problem.
Well, I think one of the major issues is to not involve the actual community that is directly impacted by these policies. And so way too often we have these special panels or groups created by City Hall, and no one from that's actually suffering through or has managed their way through mental illness, actually having a seat at the table, part of actually identifying what the problems are and actually being a part of creating the solutions. Too often we're separating our elected decision makers from the people that are actually impacted by these decisions. So that has to change. We chronically underfund issues and programs around mental illness. We need to look at the funding that we do with that. And when I was at the Carnegie Center about a month and a half ago, a week before the presentation at Council and the Mayor's Task Force on Mental Health and Addictions, there were three things that the community came up with when we were talking. They were talking about mental illness and how do we address that. Housing with dignity goes a long way to dealing with someone's mental health. An income and not being under the gun income-wise goes a long way to someone's mental health. And friendship. And we need to be able to support all of those things. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Sid Chow-Tan, and I'm running for council for COPE. And this is a very difficult problem to solve. But I think the problem really is solved by the attitude we take towards mental illness. And that is that mental illness has to be seen as part of our family, as part of something that we need to deal with. And I find in many ways when you talk about the police board and the mayor talking about this, I think the police get a very bad rap for taking on issues of mental illness. These are social issues. They get a very bad rap for taking on the drug abuse stuff. The police are meant to provide force when needed. And I don't think most mentally ill people should have this force applied on them when it doesn't need to be. I think that mental illness is something that can be solved by trying to get everybody to work together and place people in the community. One of the reasons that we have our high rises, there is no community. There were times that mental illness was a part of the community, and we need to do that again because, my God, we are living in a sick world.
Reintroduce myself. I'm Keith Higgins, running for COPE for City Council with Sid and all the rest. It's really difficult actually to add to what everybody else has said. It's not a police problem. If you take care of basic human needs, that is, shelter, enough to eat, dignity and respect and integration into a social world, you minimize a lot of the problems that we're dealing with. And that's really what we need to do. Unfortunately, the province has downloaded a lot of things on us. I unfortunately played a little bit of role in that because 20 years ago, I'm an artist. I got tired of being broke, and I went into business as business consultant, and my holy grail was to get a provincial government contract. I ended up with community living, setting that up, and I found myself in a big room full of people who weren't talking about the problems. They were talking about how to lay off the maximum number of social workers. That was the end of my consulting career, by the way. And if you see consultants coming into a problem, watch out, by the way. Because consultants, they don't have a code of ethics. Journalists have a code of ethics. Pawnbrokers have a code of ethics. Lawyers, doctors, consultants, none. So don't let them in.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Feeling good? Jesse! 85.5? 85.5? Okay. Nicholas. If it goes past, then it was correct. Yep. Uncle Sid. What was that? 70. Okay. And Keith. Are you guys running out of energy? Or are you being strategic in your voting? I think Sid and Keith, I'm sorry. You fought a good fight, a noble fight. A noble fight. Congratulations, guys. Get in there. Good job. You're in the finals. Okay. I think that's it for this round. Yes? So we got a Keith out and a Jesse in and a Nicholas.
Yeah.
There we go. Now, we're doing 2 of 2? 2 of 3. I need 3 names. Roll them up, Adam. This is exciting. Right. We are doing 3 candidates. Only one will be the winner. So when I ask you for your vote, really decide on the one you want to go through. Right? Got it? Yeah. Andrea Reimer, who I think is the only woman left in this competition. Jesse Joel. RJ Aquino.
Bring up the plaid shirt.
So this issue has been causing a little bit of a kerfuffle in the election. We have an issue with the Chevron's Fuel Your School program. So basically the way this program works is that for every 30 liters of fuel you buy, it donates $1 to school districts. Teachers apply for the funding online. Chevron says it's funded on a first-come, first-served basis. This is happening in North Vancouver, West Vancouver, Burnaby, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Surrey. But Vancouver was the only school board who rejected this money because Vision says it doesn't want Chevron anywhere near the classrooms. It's been getting criticism from opponents saying that, if it's good enough for the other kids, why can't our kids have this too? What's your position on accepting Chevron's funding for school programs?
Well, I was on the school board as a Green Party school trustee from 2002 to 2005, and working together with Kevin Millsap, who was a COPE trustee on a COPE majority school board. We wrote, at that time, the school board's first ever corporate donation policy, and what that policy says is that the school board will not accept any donation from a corporation in which the corporation wants the right to advertise their product or their brand to children as a condition of that donation. As I understand the Chevron, that is a condition of the donation. It doesn't mean that they will absolutely do that, but they reserve the right to put their logo on things, to talk to kids about the product that they're producing. And whether that was Happy Planet or Chevron, I would be just as opposed to it, because the idea that children, while sitting in a classroom, when you send them to school and say, listen to your teacher, and then that teacher starts feeding them corporate information because our provincial government won't fund public education, right? That's just fundamentally wrong, and you shouldn't be compounding it by having Chevron in the classroom.
So, I think for me the first question that comes up is, how come there's not enough money in schools? Why are we? So there shouldn't be a situation where Chevron is in a position to say, hey, we got some money, here, have at it. Yeah, I think it's a great example too. I don't know if you guys heard recently, but Lego, building blocks. Lego rejected or ceased its relationship with Shell, so that they wouldn't no longer be producing Lego pieces with the Shell logo on top of it. And I think that's an absolutely fantastic trend to remove that corporate sponsorship or messaging out of just taking it out of our kids' hands in their schools. A really disturbing thing is when children would recognize logos before they would recognize sort of concepts. So it's like, oh, hey, look, it's McDonald's. Hey, look, it's Starbucks. So this is just really, to me, is a very insidious way of inserting, that corporate branding, that corporate agenda into schools. And, I say while we're at it, if we're not accepting corporate donations in schools, and I mentioned it earlier, let's not accept corporate donations in campaign elections as well. Thank you.
I find it hilarious that the two behind me both accepted large donations from a union, but now are complaining about taking money from a corporation. Yet they both are in bed, Vision's been in bed with the developers for years. So now we have to look at this. Is the issue the money coming from the corporation, or that there's no real benefit for the political party? Because over the last number of years, Vision has been a machine funded by big money developers and corporations. We've seen sweetheart deals given left and right, and who's the one suffering? Taxpayers. We foot the bill for their lavish lifestyle. Now, I have nothing against big business or corporation. I think they do a great job. I think the fault lies at City Hall, who doesn't know where the boundaries are. So corporations in the classroom, it's happening everywhere else, and it seems to be happening with respect and with guidelines and limits. So I see no issue why they shouldn't be allowed that same opportunity to apply for those same grants and services. There are thousands of universities and schools across this nation and across North America that apply for these grants. And some of these grants allow for these kids to do things and to go on outings or for the equipment that they lack because funding has been cut. We've seen funding cut repeatedly over and over again, year after year after year. Kids have to sell freezies at lunch or popcorn through the packs. We should stop putting the money on the packs or putting the pressure on the packs to make money and demand the money from the governments. Thank you.
Okay, some hot stuff there. Let's start at this end with RJ. Andrea. Jesse.
Non-union funding.
I don't need to look at the board for that one. Thanks, guys. Great job. Congrats. Okay. Fix. Someone yelled fix.
No, it was...
Yeah, sure.
It was true. It was true.
It was true.
I swear.
It was true. Pete Fry. Nicholas Chernin. Rob McDowell. One of them. I don't care which one. That joke's getting so old.
All right, I've been really impressed at how collegial all the candidates are being today, so I'm sorry to have to ask the question that's going to bring everyone to come to blows. Bike lanes. Here are the facts. The bikes are on a bit of a roll. Over year, since last year, the bikes through the downtown separated bike lanes have gone up by 10%. Drivers hitting the brakes. We have the same number of cars on the road today in Vancouver as we did in the 1960s, and that's even with all the population growth. So the question to you guys is, what is the right balance? How do we keep all of these wheels turning smoothly?
Pete Fry, Green Party. Full disclosure, I don't own or drive a car. I'm a cyclist. So if that taints your opinion of me, I'm sorry. But I do think, first and foremost, we need to complete the bike network because there's lots of great bike path infrastructure that goes nowhere. Case in point, the Powell Street overpass. Has anybody taken that? It's ridiculous. It's a really awesome ride, and then it's like, where do you go? So I think the key to good bike infrastructure, and I just went to Portland. I took my bicycle on the train. I rode all over the city. It was awesome. And what they do really well there is like bicycle greenways. So basically, the whole pretense is that a network of bike-friendly roads through neighborhoods. They've got cars, they've got parking, they've got pedestrians, they've got children, they've got speed bumps, they've got little roundabouts and stuff. The basic pretense is don't be an asshole. Just ride through your neighborhood, be safe, be considerate, and share the road with everybody. And it seems to work down there. So I think what we run into a lot of the time is when we have the separated bike lanes and we have tension over how that the road use gets mitigated. So when we shunt traffic to other, case in point, Point Grey Road, that traffic has to go somewhere else. It's a nightmare for the people who live next to Point Grey Road. Maybe Point Grey Road could have been done differently. There are options. With the Green Party, we really believe in collaborative consultation. So we would get together with people and say, okay, well, here's option A, B, C. What do you think is going to work? Let's look at the options and figure out the best solution.
All right. I'm going to steal a word from Pete that I heard a couple of weeks ago, robust. To keep all the wheels rolling, it's about a robust public transportation network. Full disclosure for me, I haven't owned a car for 6 or 7 years, and my bike was stolen about 3 months ago, so I'm even bikeless. So public transportation is my main way of getting around. In terms of the bike lanes specifically, I think that we need a strong north-south and east-west corridor for separated, dedicated bike lanes to keep bikers downtown safe. In terms of where we choose these pathways to go, that's where I think we've let down our communities and our neighborhoods because we've done a very, very bad job of consulting with communities as to where these pathways go. For decades, we've had a very good network of dedicated selected bike routes across the city. When I ride my bike, when I was riding it up until a couple of months ago, these old dedicated and identified routes that crisscross our city at many, many north, south, east, west routes are now getting a very, very poor job of having proper signage. So if you try and cut through our city, you can't even figure out where to go. So I would reinvigorate our old pathways and have solid north, south, east, west routes downtown.
Bike lanes, great. Actually, I haven't owned a car for 20 years, so I just have to say that up front. And I mentioned the car-to-go thing. I also rely on transit, and I'm also a cyclist. So I completely understand the concerns and the divisions that have come up recently in regards to the all-ages abilities bike lanes that have been put in. MBA brought in, I think, a groundbreaking policy about 20 years ago, which established very firmly the hierarchy of transportation in Vancouver. And that started with the pedestrian, then the cyclist, then transit, then goods movement, and then single occupancy vehicles. That's stayed true right till today. And I'm concerned about the last few bike lanes that have been put in, particularly one small section of Point Grey Road, which I think is what is attracting a lot of anger. I'm concerned about that as a cyclist. I'm concerned about that as a Vancouverite, because I don't like this discourse that we've reached where everyone seems to be yelling at each other. Motorists are especially angry at cyclists and vice versa. And I think that is a problem that we all have to face, and we have to have a grown-up conversation about what we're going to do about that. I also think another problem, and this might be indicative of the decisions that have been made, City Hall has been very politicized over the last 5 years, and I think we have to make sure that the civil service that works for us is depoliticized. Thank you.
hippies. Okay. Maybe if we had more, drivers running for office, we'd have a debate, we'd have a bit of a discourse. But no, nobody owns a car. Okay, here we go. Rob. Good. Nicholas. Pete. Right to the end. Right to the end. You, sir. Awesome. All right. Okay, don't move. Andrea Reimer, Pete Fry, 120 seconds, 2 minutes each. No holds barred, to the death. So, okay, bring in the mud. Oh, no mud? We're not doing the mud? That's a shame. That was what I... So, who's got the killer question? Jackie? You good?
Sure. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I guess, maybe, yeah. Here we go. Oh, look at this. That's fantastic.
Okay, everybody's
2
up?
minutes each.
Okay. So, 2 years ago, the Vancouver Foundation released the results of a survey that polled people in Metro Vancouver about what they care about the most in the area, and you might be familiar with this survey. 1/3 of the respondents said that Metro Vancouver can be a hard place to make friends, and then also 1 in 4 people indicated that they're alone more often than they should be. And all of this showed how this was also related very much to poorer health, lower trust, a hardening of attitudes towards community members. And so what to you can be done to address this growing sense of isolation that people seem to be feeling here?
Pete. All right. So, Pete Fry, Green Party. I've done actually a lot of work with the Vancouver Foundation, or I should say Vancouver Foundation. They don't actually have a "the" in Vancouver Foundation. And I worked actually on the adjudication board to give out grants to neighborhood small grants. And it's a tremendous, great program, and especially in the downtown east side, it makes such a difference with people. And people look at the downtown east side and they think, oh, there's a lot of problems down there. There is such a strong sense of community, and I think we see how much that enlivens people, and I think there's some great opportunities there to bring us all together and mitigate things like social isolation. When we talk about social isolation, it's a huge mitigating factor in things like mental illness, because we take people when they're at their lowest ebb, and be it hard luck times, they've lost their job or what have you, and oftentimes we just throw them right into the worst possible scenario where they're living in some substandard SRO, and they're surrounded by predators, and they're surrounded by noise and tension, and what they really need is some nurturing community. And I do see a lot of that in the downtown east side. I do see a lot of that through small grant programs. A lot of the stuff that Councillor Reimer is probably going to talk about with Engaged City really helps facilitate that, because I think they have some amazing programs through the Engaged City. I'm not really a big fan, and I know you worked on this too, Mark, so I don't want to upset anybody. I'm not really a big fan of the random community reference panels. I think that that's a great opportunity for us to work with communities. I went down to Portland and I checked out the Office of Neighborhood Involvement. They have 96 different neighborhood associations in Portland, divided into 7 district coalitions. When it comes to land use decisions, when it comes to neighborhood planning, they sit down with the communities. The neighborhood associations are actually funded by the city and given a mandate to be inclusive, and I guess still got more time, eh? They have a mandate to be inclusive. They have a mandate to be, equanimous and ensure that there is broad representation, and it works, and people are happy and they're compassionate, and that's the kind of city we want, a compassionate, connected, inclusive city. Thank you.
Okay, Pete, I wasn't going to say this unless you said Portland in your last answer, but I have to say, I feel like we're in the Pete Fry drinking game, where Portland is said a minimum of a number of times in every debate. A couple years ago, when this study came out, that year I'd had this quite serious infection that they had trouble diagnosing. Had 2 minor surgeries, 2 20-day hospital stays, massive major emergency surgery, which led to an even longer hospital stay. So I had plenty of time to read long documents, including the Vancouver Foundation report. So while I'm sitting in my hospital bed day after day after day, you learn something. You learn that the only reason you're in a hospital in an underfunded healthcare system is because you're either super sick and they don't know what's wrong with you, or you don't have any friends or family. And I would see people that they were desperate to get them out of that hospital bed, but they had no one to come to support them, to go home with them. I saw other people whose friends kept coming in, their family kept coming in, and no matter how sick they were, they would perk up, they would walk, they would do all, I mean, this direct link between health and social inclusion and what that looked like. I got out of the hospital bed, got back to City Hall, and brought in a motion to set up the Engaged City Task Force, partly to deal with an issue that had been ongoing, the relationship between residents in the city and residents. But what the Foundation report says is that if you're not connecting with your neighbors, there is no way City Hall is going to be your first connection. You're not going to march out of your house, ignore your friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, and come to City Hall and engage in a consultation on something. So the Engaged City Task Force did a very broad investigation in different communities in the city based on their own affinities, and these 4 themes came out, no matter whether we were talking to Chinese seniors in Collingwood, people living in Point Grey, people in Marpole, people in the downtown east side. You need to build knowledge, you need to build capacity, you need to build trust, and you need to build power. And those are the 4 things that I'm committed to in building our resident consultation and involvement in City Hall.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the final round. The debate has come to an end. Also comes to an end my role as MC. I wanted to. Aww. Never in a million years. Okay, so. I want to just close by saying every one of the candidates in this room, every one of the candidates who are not in this room, every one of you who participates in some community building, engagement, political activism in your life, anyone who volunteers deserves a round of applause. Please give yourself and these people a round of applause. A city is not buildings, no matter how expensive the land is. A city is made up of people, and a government is made up of people. Thank you all. Okay. Somebody's got to go. Okay, here we go. Pete Fry. Number to beat is 87.6. Okay, she says, like, I'm going to do this. I don't know how, but Andrea Reimer. Okay, we have a tie. I'm going to explain. Does anybody know how a decimal meter works? Okay. I'm going to change what's called the range. So you can change the input level on which, okay, so I'm going to turn it down a notch, which means it goes higher. So let's do a test. Go. Let's go the other way. Go. Okay, so we now have a broader range that we can measure sound. Pete Fry. Andrea Reimer. By 0.1. The winner is Andrea Reimer. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Paola, who disappeared. She was right there. There she is. Thank you all for having me. Sorry for me.
Congratulations. We'll get back over here. You do need to be up here because you're granted with the 2014 Last Candidate Standing winner. And I would like to say that Andrea Reimer had some appointment that she's totally late for because she thought she'd get kicked out in the first round. So, and another thing with that point one, this is why we have multiple parties represented on council. So there's always a chance to get both of these amazing people on council. And you're welcome. Thank you so much. So a few more thank yous. On behalf of all my colleagues at the VPSN, I want to put a big, big thank you to all the candidates that came out today. Our amazing panel, and our sponsors at SFU Woodwards and Urbanarium, and our lovely band, the New Shackleton.